Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of Vision Alignment Show. I'm so glad you're here with me today because we have got a big day ahead of us. There's so much going on. I'll tell you, the work at the School for the Blind is one of the things that we do and I do. Going there, spending time with the kids and the students really is one of those things where I never imagined doing it, but once I'm now doing it, I can't imagine not doing it. So all of what we do right now is online. So we have, I work from 11:30 until 7:30 or so, Monday through Thursday. But really, the experience that I get to have with the students, even online, has been totally life-changing. So that's one of the big things that we're doing. Another big thing that we're doing here with the Radical Vision is we have these vision alignment shows that are really, I think, adding a lot of value to a lot of people. And I'm really thankful for all of you being here. So I can't tell you how much that means to me. And then also wanted to tell you about some other things we're doing. We have a show called The Stroke of Genius. And The Stroke of Genius airs on Fridays at 11:30. And this Friday, we're going to be interviewing Rob Oliver. Now, Rob was paralyzed in a diving accident, I believe, when he was 21-ish, maybe. So come and listen to that. He's got a lot to say about what he's gone through and how he can tell you a little bit about the caregivers in his life and what he wished they would know going forward. So that's really the whole intent of that show, is to talk with people about the disability they have, but also what caregivers could know. So there's so much that we need to know as caregivers. I would say that it is very important for us all to have that understanding. If we can understand what the person with the disability is going through and what would best serve them, then we would have a much better idea as to what we can do as caregivers to provide them the most useful and beneficial care. One of the things I think about is when my caregiver was helping me to get started, and that's Connie, by the way, my wife. She helped me to get started with driving again. And it was tough. It still is tough because there's still moments where, maybe I'm not in the right lane, or maybe I'm not in the correct part of the lane. There are certain instances where we have some differences of opinions. And at one point, I said to her, this was early on, back when I just first started back to driving. I said, wow, gosh, could you just let me hit something? Because she would never let me hit something. Granted, I shouldn't be hitting something. That's the wrong thing to say for me. But I just wanted to be able to push my boundaries. I wanted to be able to know where was enough. And yeah, so maybe sometimes I would scratch the car or dent a fender, things like that. Still, those are things where I knew my limitations, and I knew my limitations because I had pushed myself to them. It's not always a good thing, and it's sometimes stressful, especially for the caregiver. But the caregiver needs to have that ability to let go a little bit. So when I'm thinking about this, I think back to a talk that I heard done by Michael J. Fox. He was in Columbus for an event here that we had at Ohio Health, and he was talking about how he needed to understand with his caregiver how important it was for her to be able to understand what he was going through. And one of the questions from the audience was, what would you tell your caregiver if you could go back and tell them? Now, he said, I'll tell you what I'll tell them. I would tell them to just let me do what I want to do. So, for example, he mentioned a gentleman that had come up to him and said, well, he's a caregiver for another fella, and he wants to go skydiving, and he's not going to let him do it. He can't let him do it. Why would I let him go do it? He might die. Well, he has stage 4 cancer. He might die anyway, but if you don't let him do it, what good is that? It doesn't do any good. So that's why it's so important for us to talk more about caregivers and how they can better serve their disabled persons. So again, want to make sure that you are available for that on Friday at 11:30. It's going to be a great talk. I can't wait for Rob to come on. And then next Tuesday, oh my gosh, we have a special guest on vision alignment. On vision alignment, we're going to have Patricia Fripp. She is a world-renowned speech coach. So she helps executives and speakers all over the world with their speech and making sure that they have the best and most impactful speech that they possibly can. She has many, many things that she goes into to help people. And I really want to make sure that you're available for that call on next Tuesday, the 13th, at what time is it? It's at 10 o'clock, just like we are now, 10 o'clock Eastern. So join us for that. Now, pull out your WINK workbooks. You don't have a WINK workbook? A WINK workbook? You got to have a WINK workbook. So we are coming up with a solution for that. Not many of you have a WINK workbook. Now, the good news is we have a WINK workbook that you can use. And it's available via download. You can go to it and pull it down. I'm going to put this in the show notes in the comments for you all to see. But that WINK workbook is going to help you to start to go from a point of blindness to sight to vision. Because if you can go from blindness to sight to vision and understand what makes you unique, then you're going to start to embrace your own personal blindness to achieve a greater vision for your life. That's what this is all about. I'm just so thankful you've joined us here today. But let's get started. We'll WINK. So the W in WINK stands for why. Why? Why does it matter what makes me unique? From my perspective, and there may be other perspectives on this as well. From my perspective, you need to know what makes you unique because that's how you're best going to serve other people. That's what makes you who you are. It's what sets you apart. So if you can understand what makes you unique, then you can talk with other people and help them serve them. You know, you may be a great philanthropist. You may be a very positive person. You may be a great baker of cookies, like my friend Karen. You may have a certain skill that maybe some other people have, but maybe you have it, and that's what you're best at. That's when you're in your groove. That's when you're in your zone. That's when whatever you're doing doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like joy. And that's what brings you joy. We've talked a lot about how focusing on what brings you joy. If you can focus on what brings you joy, then everything else won't matter. So again, focus on what makes you unique and why it's important. And we already talked about why it's important. So understanding why it's important is going to help you to understand how you can serve other people and who you should be serving. So that's the other thing. We don't all have the same audience. We don't have the same group of people that we're serving. So if you can understand the first part of what makes you unique, then you can kind of trial and error in some cases with that to understand, okay, well, here's what it is that I should be serving, or who I should be serving. So that's important as well. So having said that, the next thing on the list is to talk a little bit about when you start your day, to give you an idea of this and what makes you unique. To when you start your day, what is the one thing you want to concentrate on? Is it making money? Is it serving your fellow man? Is it being positive? Is it where you want to be able to to have a more intimate relationship with your spouse. Maybe you want to be able to have a better conversations with your kids. Whatever it is, that's what you need to focus on, and that's what you want to focus on. So I want to ask you now, if that's the one thing you want to focus on, if that's the one thing, maybe it makes you unique, what's keeping you from that? If you can understand what's keeping you from that, what's blocking you, then you're going to have a way to get to what makes you unique. For example, you may want to eat more healthy. You may want to start a class where you're helping other people just eat more healthy, and you know that if you start that class, then that'll force you to eat more healthy as well. Well, if something's blocking you from eating healthy, like French fries all around, or maybe it's just soda pop in the fridge that is there every time you look at it, you're like, oh man, I kind of feel like I should have one of those today. But if you can think about that, if you can think about what's preventing you from getting to what makes you, not what makes you unique, but getting from your purpose, keeping you from what it is you should be doing, keeping you from focusing on what you want to focus on. So if it's eating healthy, then this food and all that is keeping you from that. So understand what that is. I want to ask, oh, and by the way, if anyone's listening on the live version, please put in the hashtag live and where you're calling in from. If you're listening to a replay, put in hashtag replay. So let's talk a little bit about that in terms of what anyone would be willing to share. So is there anyone out there that would be willing to share with me what it is that is preventing you from focusing on and spending time on and being dedicated to what your passion is? What are you doing for that day? Please respond if you would. I would appreciate it. And I'm going to keep going as you are all typing. So, so for me, my focus is being positive. When I wake up every day, I want to be positive. That's who I want to be. I want people to think, wow, where does this guy come from? What makes him so positive? Because I'm positive because that's who I am. I want to be that way. I don't want to be a negative person. I don't care to hang around negative people. And being positive is one of those things that's just, it's who I am and it's who I want to be. It's who I want to be for other people. So what keeps me from being positive? One of the things that keeps me from being positive is negative news. It's news in general. Turning on the morning news in the weekday, it's something that I've kept myself from the last few months, years. I don't know. It's something that I don't want to deal with because I know taking in that news. Now you may say there's some positive stuff that comes out of that. Well, maybe there is some positive, but for all the negative that's there, the positive does not outweigh it. So that is what keeps me from being positive, is taking in negative thoughts, negative words, negative actions, all that's going on. So what I've done is I've managed a way to meter that news intake. So I still don't bury my head in the sand. I still take in the news, but it's on a metered basis. And having that metered basis of news has really allowed me to take in what I feel is appropriate. And let's see, who else is joined? I see somebody else has joined here. So let's see, who do we have? Jeremy Toussaint live. Thank you very much for joining, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Let's see, what's keeping you? So assuming that I can't make the kind of money making now doing the thing I love to do. So tell me, Jeremy, what is the thing you love to do? I'd love to hear from you in terms of that. And I think when we have our mission, our goal, what we're working on for that day, whether it's making money or, like I said, if it's losing weight or eating healthy, whatever it is, and know that there are things that come into play that distract us from that and they keep us from that. For me, it's being positive. If I listen to the news, I know that's going to keep me from being positive. So if you, Jeremy, if you have something that's preventing you from that, from making the money you think you should be making or that you want to make, well, then what is that? So understand what it is that's keeping you from that. Let's see what else we have on here. A radical vision. Looks like somebody is on my account. Hey, and it's Wes Wyatt, I'll bet. Thank you very much for that, Wes. I appreciate you. And so you can get your WINK Workbook here. So that'll allow you to stay together with us on this journey. And again, there it is. WINK, brianwagner.podia.com/WINK Workbook. And that's WINK with dashes in between. Nice job, Wes. Thank you. So, yeah, being positive is something that has been the intentional part of me. I'm being intentional with, all that, to understand that the news is one of those things that I'm intentional with. I have to be intentional with taking it in when I feel it's appropriate. Well, let me ask you something else. Is there something that you're doing or something that you've been launching into that it's annoying you because you do the same thing every time and you don't know why you do it, but you just do it. What makes you unique? I'm sorry, Jeremy, you mentioned encouraging others. Hey, that's awesome. I think that's a great way to focus on, the great thing to focus on. If that's what it is that you focus on, encouraging others, you're encouraging me right now just by responding and commenting. So I appreciate you doing that. That's encouraging. So what's keeping you from that? I mean, in the future, probably nothing. You just need to make sure you continue to do that and to be thoughtful of that as you continue to go through life. So thank you for that. I appreciate you. But back to where we were with this. Is there something that you're doing because you've always done it that way? Hypothetically, let's just imagine that there's a pandemic. Right. Well, this pandemic has caused everything to shut down. We're not allowed to go outside of our homes for weeks on end. And even toilet paper is in tough supply. Well, as that happened, we all had to change our ways. We had to change what we were doing. We couldn't get on the commute, most likely, as long as we were not an essential worker. We had to change the way that we shopped. We had to change the way that we took home groceries. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so there's a lot that went into that whole process of the initial stages of the pandemic, and they've continued. Some of them have continued to this day. So, and now we are 7 months into this. So what else is it maybe that you're doing that you just run into the same issue every time and you're like, I wish I wouldn't do that? Well, for me, I used to have an office on the other side of this wall that was about 100 square feet. And I had to realize that my office was not growing with me. I was getting too much, or had too much going on, and I needed to kind of branch out from there. So I asked my wife, Connie, I said, can I use the living room upstairs? And we'll put some doors in, it'll be fine. It'll be great. Well, she didn't buy that. So she said, why don't you just use the room on the other side of your wall, which is this room that I'm in now. The room that I'm in now is about 300 square feet. Wow, what a difference this made. So I moved over here, and of course I moved in with, there's a soffit. There's a soffit that was right behind me. So I kept banging my head on this soffit, much like I did on the other side of the wall when I was in that 100 square foot space. But if I stopped banging my head, I could realize, maybe I should turn my desk around. Well, that'll change everything. So, of course, that's what I did with the help of my beautiful wife, Connie. She helped me to not only paint the entire room down here, or rooms, and then she also helped me to flip my desk. She helped me to do a 180. Aren't there many times we all need to do that 180? Just to think differently, to have someone else with us that will help us to think differently has been extremely helpful for me. Now, I know that you may have a similar situation. It may not be your spouse that you rely on. Maybe there's someone else that you can rely on to help you with your 180. Maybe someone else to help you with your blind spots. So that's an important part of the whole aspect of what we're going through here today, is to understand that 180. So what are you doing? What are you doing right now that you find annoying? Is it something that you deal with every day or maybe every week, and you just have to do it because somebody told you you had to do it? I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about that. And then tell me, if you would, if there is an aha moment that you reached. Is there a point in time where you kind of got to a point where, like me, and I realized that my office was not good for me and not where I needed to be and not an effective use of the house that we were in? What do you have that is keeping you well, not what's keeping you, but what aha moment did you have? And tell me a little bit about that. So again, hashtag live, hashtag replay. Either way, I would appreciate that. So I want you all to think that if you can change one small thing and have a small impact, you can change another small thing, perceivably small, and have a bigger impact. Just that one small thing will change your trajectory. And then it's going to allow you to have much more success, be much happier, and experience joy, true joy. So that is crucial. I want you to, as you're thinking about this, as you're typing, I want you to look at some behaviors or patterns that you have that you could deal away with. So they may be small, they may be insignificant, you think, but having a change and having an effect on those will make all the difference in the world. So I know we're at about 23 minutes. So we've gone through the first 3 letters of WINK, W-I-N. So the W is for why. Why does it matter? What makes you unique? And the I is for being intentional. Being intentional, with that intentionality, you begin to understand that you're trying to pursue something specific, whether it's weight loss or whatever. And if you can get to that, that's great. But if you have things that distract you, then that's not great. And you need to be intentional with that. The more intentional you are, the better off you're going to be. And then the end that we talked about is for a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at life, a new way of looking at my office, or whatever it is for you. If you can have that new way of looking, then things are going to begin to change. I promise you. Well, the K, then I'm going to make this brief, but the K is for kinesthetic. And kinesthetic is all about taking action. Taking action, you can find that by using your WINK Workbook. If you would use that WINK Workbook, you're going to understand that everything will change once you start to take action. Now, it doesn't always mean you're always going to take the right action. Sometimes you're going to take the wrong part. But just keep going. Keep going, keep improving, keep living, keep loving. I love you. Thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate all of you. We'll be back again tomorrow. And tomorrow is Friday, and tomorrow's a big day. So we have that 10 o'clock call to talk about vision alignment. And we'll probably go into the WINK Workbook a little bit more and make a deeper conversation. But then also, we have that 11:30 call with Rob Oliver. Can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to you all being back here. Thank you so much for joining. And as always, keep one eye on the road. Bye.